Coastal headland, tidal shelf. Early morning. We came back at first light because that was the earliest the tide would be low enough. I'd calculated it from the tide tables at the harbor office, checked twice, noted the exact window. The shelf exposes fully for approximately 90 minutes on a low tide at this part of the coast. Yesterday, I had less than half of that by the time I reached it. Today we have the full window if we're down there when the water clears. Hannah arrived back at the headland path before dawn. We didn't talk much on the walk out. She had the grid map and a torch and the pre-registry catalog card, which I'd asked her to bring. I had the device, still in continuous signal mode, still pointing, the bearing unchanged through the night. I checked it when I woke at 4 in the morning and it was holding. I checked it again when Hannah arrived, still holding. The tide was already pulling back when we reached the edge. We could see the shelf beginning to emerge, the dark wet rock appearing as the water retreated, the depression still submerged at the center, but visible through the shallowing water as a lighter patch against the darker stone. We climbed down as soon as it was safe to do so. Full light by the time the shelf was clear. The marks are more extensive than I was able to document yesterday. In the low tide and the morning light, I could see the full field of them, running from the base of the cliff face out to the water margin on both sides, covering the rock surface in a continuous system that has no visible beginning or end. The pattern isn't random. There's an organization to it that I could feel without being able to decode it. A density at the center that radiates outward, the marks becoming less concentrated toward the edges, like a document that is most specific at its core and most general at its periphery. Hannah crouched immediately and began working. She had the pre-registry catalog card in her hand, the proto-catalog card we recovered from the collapsed structure on the headland, the one with the 23 name list on the reverse. She was holding it next to specific marks on the shelf surface, moving methodically, not speaking. I gave her time and documented what I could from my section of the shelf. After about 15 minutes, she called me over. She had found 3 marks in the tidal shelf system that matched, in simplified form, reduced to their essential structure, characters present on the pre-registry catalog card. Not identical. The shelf versions were larger, less refined, the cuts deeper and older. But the relationship was clear once she pointed it out. The same underlying form, expressed first in the rock and then later in the more abbreviated notation of the proto-catalog card. She said, "The card didn't invent these, it inherited them. Someone saw these marks, or marks like these, and developed the catalog notation from them." I said, "Which means the pre-registry symbol system didn't originate with whoever made the catalog card. It originated here." She said, "Or somewhere like here. Somewhere older than the archive." I looked at the field of marks around us, the hundreds of incisions in the rock, the organization I couldn't decode, the age that I couldn't estimate precisely, but that felt very long. The archive system, the crescent marks, the parallel lines, the catalog notation, had always felt like a designed infrastructure, something built to a purpose. These marks felt different, not designed, accumulated, added to over time by different hands working in the same vocabulary, not constructing something but contributing to something already present. I said the archive didn't create this vocabulary, it found it and formalized it. She said, "The same way it found Rook, the same way it found the pre-registry structure." She looked at the marks around us. The archive is a cataloging system. It catalogs things that were already there. The device hadn't changed through any of this. Continuous signal, bearing toward the depression at the center of the mark field. I'd been aware of it the whole time, the steady pressure of it against my ribs from the chest pocket, but I'd been working around it, using the signal as orientation rather than subject. We reached the depression with about 40 minutes of window remaining. It looks different with more time and better light. The bowl in the rock, palm-sized and roughly circular, is not isolated. It sits at the convergence point of several lines of marks that radiate outward from it in different directions, like the center of something, which is what it is, the center of the whole field. Everything on this shelf is organized in relation to this point. The surface of the depression is smooth in a way that nothing else on the shelf is smooth. The surrounding rock is weathered, the marks aged, the surface textured by time and tide. The depression is worn to a finish that requires sustained repetition. Not natural erosion, but the specific smoothing that comes from the same contact in the same place over and over. Many hands, many visits, many returns, or one hand returning for a very long time. I documented it. Then I looked at the device. Then I looked at Hannah. She said, "Put your hand in it." I crouched in front of the depression. The device was in my right hand. I held it steady, bearing unchanged, signal unchanged, and placed my left hand flat into the depression. The device stopped, not a new signal, not a transition, stopped. The light went out, the tone ceased. After days of continuous signal, the silence was abrupt enough that I pulled my hand back instinctively before I understood what had happened. I stayed still. The shelf was quiet, the water at the margins, the wind off the coast. Hannah beside me, not moving. And then, not from the device, not from the rock beneath me, not from any instrument or document or building, I heard it, the pulse, directly, in the way that I haven't heard it before, the way it has always been mediated, through the device's intervals, through the floor of the origin site, through the hum at 47 Marginal Road. This was not mediated. This was the signal itself, in whatever sense I am capable of receiving it, without any equipment between me and it. 11 seconds. I counted, measured. The interval was 11 seconds, the same interval as Rook, the same rhythm the system has held throughout the entire investigation. Then 10, then 9. I put my hand back in the depression. Hannah said quietly, "I can hear it too." The interval dropped again. The signal between us and whatever was producing it was shortening, the way the device interval shortened near significant archive material, the way it shortened near the convergence at 47 Marginal Road, near the founding document, near watch number 1, getting closer to something, or something getting closer to us. 8 seconds. I looked at Hannah. She was already looking back at me, not alarmed. Something else. The expression of someone arriving somewhere they have been moving toward for a long time without being able to see it. She said, "It's leading us somewhere." 7 seconds. The tide began to move at the edge of the shelf.